Hi, and welcome to Anime with Annie. In this video today, I'll be talking about the Kekkai Sensen series and we'll be giving a recap on each episode from Season 1. But before we get into it, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to never miss any updates from us. So, let's get started. Episode 1. In Hell Salem's lot, Leonardo is pursuing a monkey that stole his camera. Zap Renfro shows up when there is an explosion and informs Leonardo that he did not come to their meeting place. Vivian overheard Leonardo talking to someone at Diane's diner and learned he was an apprentice reporter. Chain Samurai argues that it is impossible for Klaus von Reinhardt to greet him as Johnny Landis because Johnny had just passed away. Chain tells us that Klaus protected Leonardo and the gate originated from the monkey, dispelling Zap's suspicion that Leonardo was working for Femt. Leonardo claims that 6 months ago he was at the Statue of Liberty with his sister and family when a weird creature asked them who would see us through, causing them to understand that the other would lose their sight. The HLPD then shows up and opens fire on Klaus and the group, believing they are to blame for the tragedy. He offers Leonardo a job with them, saying that they will assist him achieve his goal, and once more extends a warm welcome to him and Libra. When Zap and Leonardo start hunting for the monkey, Chain calls to let them know that it is approaching them and that the fence will open soon. Episode 2. As he enters the Libra office, Leonardo notices Zap attempting to attack Klaus but failing to stop him. As he thinks back to all the times he was attacked by Zap and the pizza was seized by him, Leonardo asks him to give it back even though he knows he won't pay for it. Returning, Leonardo says that Zap follows him everywhere, but Zap counters that Leonardo is a stalker. He is given the go-ahead to take it and Zap succeeds in letting Chain to follow him by getting his blood on him. Shibobara reveals that he was the only one who saw through the ruse, revealing Leonardo's eye twinhood. In the meantime, Leonardo uses his power to make them see the monkey as he searches for a method to get away on his own. The chain is followed by Klaus and Steven, and they succeed in getting to the truck. After a few days, Leonardo begins to feel better. She identifies herself as White, a ghost, and says she recognizes Leonardo's name. Episode 3. Leonardo snaps a photo of White and remarks, "I saw her." When Leonardo awakens in his apartment, he discovers that the hotel and half of his room are gone, and a gigantic monster is visible. Chain and Zap were instructed to start looking into Angel Scale, a medicine that Steven mentions as having the potential to temporarily modify one's physical appearance. Despite their best efforts, they can't find any information about Angel Scale. After meeting KK, Klaus departs for a mansion. It would be safer for him to leave, but when Klaus encounters Grandmaster Kroskova Ilchenko outside of it, he tells him that he was the wrong person and goes inside. One of the top bosses in the alternate universe, Don Arlel Urko Fulgrochi, greets them as they enter the mansion. Episode 4. Leonardo comes into contact with a person in the train wearing a red wing. When Klaus learned of it, he called in Blitz D. Abrams, a vampire hunter who is also his mentor. Gilbert phones Klaus and informs him that the FBI needs their assistance as they fight the elder class Blood Breeds. Steven and KK go out to find the vampires at the station. They encounter some ghouls made by the vampires, but they are quickly vanquished. While they run back, Chain records KK and Steven's battle with the vampires and streams it to Klaus. Klaus becomes enraged when he witnesses Steven and KK losing. Then when a train passes, Klaus leaps from it and crushes Tony Andretti with his technique. He then seals Valsh Rozovatko Gurka after speaking her name and shocking her by knowing it. Then as he notices the Libra member's aura beginning to burn, he understands that he was mistaken and that there's always a chance that things could change. He remembers his conversation with Black and how he had asked him if he could see the other 5% as well. Then Black phones Femt and informs him that the King of Despair is his friend. Episode 5. Allergia, the Queen of Monomania, is driving through All in Her Path with her monstrous truck as she searches for invention, Brody and Hummer. Femt and the King of Despair formulate their own covert schemes in the meantime. Leonardo spots White later at the hospital and hides. Angered, Leonardo goes to White and invites her to a movie. He thinks of himself as pitiful because he constantly gets in trouble with his sister. White sits down next to him and tells him he's a good guy and gives him a hug. Episode 6. Leo meets Nej, a Beyondan who resembles a mushroom and is unable to purchase hamburgers from the segregated 42nd Street sector where they are served, while out getting lunch for Zap and himself. After being released from the hospital, Leonardo chooses to have some hamburgers. When he sees the burger, he begins to cry and wonders why he ordered 2. He observes Nej running his direction and being struck by a truck, but since Nej is unharmed, he requests that he gives him his burger. Later, when Leonardo pays White a visit, he runs into the boy he remembered seeing in the metro. He introduces himself as Black and White and says he's her big brother. Episode 7. Klaus and Leo end up in an underground cage fighting stadium while pursuing a rescue request from Zap. Klaus ends up in the ring. Over lunch at the diner, Black and Leo become friends and discover they have a lot in common. Later, Black is seen by Leonardo, who offers to drive him. Black reveals that while there are no candies where he is from, people think the dead and ghosts come out on Halloween when they talk about Halloween. Episode 8. Zap had been taking it easy until a blood breed showed up in the city, at which point his lord ordered him to close it off. Raju says that because the blood breed is regenerating inside the egg, he must simultaneously strike all 6 of his eyes. Zap strikes all the eyes at once, neutralizing the egg, and Raju congratulates him, saying that his focus rivals that of when he's asleep. While rushing to get Chain's phone to find out where Angelica is, Zap hears a female voice reading the time and is taken aback when he realizes that Chain had duped him. Leonardo employs the blood breed to seal him, but he is unable to see the blood breed's true name, preventing him from being sealed. Black confronts the King of Despair at their parents' grave and tells him that he is allowed to do whatever he wants with his body, but that White should not be involved. Episode 9. In order to combat the threat posed by the Elder Blood and Hailstone's Lot, Blood Battle God, Raju Juzuki, the creator of the Big Dipper-style blood technique, and Zap's instructor, recruits a new soldier. While Zap is the genuine heir to the Gachuki branch of the Big Dipper-style blood technique, according to Raju, his new apprentice is the legitimate heir to the Shintobe branch. However, Zap argues that it is impossible for humans to combine 2 types in that way. The front of a plane being flown by Raju's student has the top part of the blood breed on it. A monster smashes the plane as it approaches Hell Salem's Lot, and Dog, Hummer, and Deldro Brody grab the front and ram it into a structure. Klaus, Zap, and Leonardo rush up to it in an attempt to learn his full name. Zed thinks Zap is rude, but when they get ready to battle the blood breed, he understands Zap is Raju's second disciple. Zed collapses from exhaustion and the shock of the information. While the King of Despair, Femt, and Allergia were conversing about the plans of the King of Despair, Allergia ultimately gave him a device which delighted the King of Despair. White remembers how the King of Despair entered Black's body as her condition had gotten worse. White remembers a conversation she had with her father, during which they decided to use the names Black and White for each other. Episode 10. Leo, Zap, and Zed's lunchtime turns unusual when they visit various eateries, each of which is stranger than the last, and eventually they find themselves forced into a furious argument with Klaus and Steven. The King of Despair and White then surround Leo in an attempt to utilize him for their own individual ends. Leonardo and the others visit a posh restaurant because they are starving. They begin a heated disagreement while the wife is present, and when the argument turns physical, blood is spilled on Leonardo, Zap, and Zed's food. As they prepare to dine, the location is destroyed, and they find themselves engaged in battle with the Thousand Rajoka brothers. Once there, Zap becomes sick from the tuna and spends the remainder of the day in the hospital. They then go to the very first sushi restaurant. Blitz is informed by the Elder that one of the barriers was destroyed when Libra engaged a blood breed, though he doesn't hold them responsible because the barrier cannot be physically damaged. A sprinting woman with a facial injury is seen by the King of Despair, who then tells her that she'll be slain. If they're successful, he will help them capture the woman. If not, he will murder them. Zed departs from Leonardo and Zed when he sees White in the hospital and goes to check on Zap. Leonardo is informed by White that she desires to have access to his all-seeing eyes of God. Episode 11. The King of Despair utilizes the strength of Leo's eyes to start a massive calamity on Hell Salem's Lot around Halloween, as the origins of White and her brother are revealed. White remembers her childhood with her mother, Emma Macbeth, and father, Benjamin Macbeth. Despite being descended from casters, White lacks psychic abilities in contrast to Black, her twin brother, who appears to be powerful for both of them. Black arrives and prevents her father from explaining why Black decided against being a caster and why it was such a big matter. Later, Black tells her of an instance when she created a beautiful mud ball and out of jealousy, he lost control of his abilities. Later, White urges Black to learn how to cast spells and begin practicing. The King of Despair holds Leonardo using Black's telepathic abilities as White apologizes to him in the chapel. White reveals that in order to free Black from him, Leonardo is necessary. A magic circle and Leonardo's abilities are used by the King of Despair in a new location. He then informs Leonardo that White isn't human and that her parents have replaced her heart with a barrier to keep her alive. The King of Despair shoots White in the heart later at the chapel. Episode 12. Zap and Zed are moving in his direction after Libra discovers where Leonardo was. The undead are first fought by Libra. Leonardo then decides to go to the hospital. Leonardo says that White isn't human, but Leonardo already understands that she is a barrier. After catching up to Leonardo, Dog, Hummer, and Deldro Brody grab him and hurl him after learning that he needs to climb the newly created tower. As the King of Despair informs Klaus that he isn't waiting for him, Klaus responds that he is there for William instead of himself. Steven and Kekkai help Leonardo by killing the zombies and clearing his route. Leonardo begins to worry as one of his eyes begins to break. Leonardo climbs to the top as Gilbert arrives in the automobile. In the meantime, the King of Despair and Klaus started to battle. The King of Despair questions whether Leonardo will murder him with his eyes, but Leonardo replies that he isn't sure whether that's the proper course of action and will keep considering it as long as he lives. He looks inside and sees Black, who declares he doesn't want to pass away. White opens her eyes a short while later and first sees Black, then Leonardo. Leonardo assures her that he is aware of who she is, that Black desires to live, and that if she is frightened by the light, he will hold her hand and guide her as often as she requires. The King of Despair is then headbutted by Leonardo, who then utilizes his strength to share his vision with him and make him see white. Black sobs and declares that he is terrified and that to him, a world without her is nothing at all. White comforts him by assuring him that even in the absence of her, the world will exist and that he must continue to live. Klaus commends Leonardo for his actions, saying that he saved them and is proud of him. Episode 13. Leonardo was taken hostage and then freed, wearing an odd crater and a jar on his head. As more creatures begin to go after them, Zap and Leonardo begin to flee. The creatures pursuing Zap and Leonardo are quickly eliminated when the rest of Libra shows up. Leonardo is getting ready to play a game on his new X station at home when Zap calls him and instructs him to open his window. Leonardo notices Franz Ackerman, the chief of the U.S. presidential envoy, inside the box and wonders why he is there. In the office, Steven and Klaus examine Franz's surviving corpse. Later, when agents approach his apartment and blow it up, Leonardo and Franz sneak out and watch, which prompts Franz to realize that there are traitors among his people. The Duke places a bounty on Franz, and a number of groups and individuals begin seeking him. Leonardo becomes ecstatic as he approaches the Federation Hall, but Dog Hummer and Dale Brody appear, cautioning him and shielding him from tank fire. When Leonardo begins to panic, Franz is able to calm him down. Leonardo arrives at the Federation Hall just in time after borrowing a pizza delivery scooter from a coworker, but there he discovers Klaus and Steven being held captive, along with Rachel demanding Franz's head. Leonardo wants to discuss his competence for his ruined home while Franz is still speaking, but Libra cautions him that if he waits, the monster would find out where he lives and kill him, making Leonardo sob for his X station. And that concludes my recap for Season 1 of Kekkai Sensen. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel Anime with Annie for more such exciting anime content and reviews. And please leave comments about what you thought of today's video. And remember, have an Annie-mazing day.